Hey look, I found 3 more washers. Oh, hello there, my macaroni mule mullets. Back in the washer bag you go. So I would say that it's a pretty safe assumption to claim that most everybody who's in the balisong hobby has held something that's been milled by machines, like say, this. Or even cast in a mold, like this. But you know what I'm sure that most people have not actually held in their life is something completely made by hand. This is the thing that's completely made by hand. It's the JW magnet video! That's right, the magnet. This gorgeous balisong was handmade by Yakovelk JW in Poland. From the blade to the handle slabs, and even the spacers. This whole thing was made by hand. Look at these chamfers on the handles. It's beautiful how even they are, and incredible how on almost every single slab they are just nearly perfect and identical. And it's all done by hand. And of course, can't forget the cutouts on the handles. Those are also incredibly well done. The only thing is, I wish that they were also chamfered just like the edges of the handles, because they are a little bit sharp still, and I can feel it when I rub my finger on it. And you can feel that when flipping. But overall, they are really well done. And as for the tune, of course there's going to be a little bit of wiggle. Even the best tuned balisongs will have a little bit of wiggle. That's just kind of inevitable. But look how well tuned it is. There's almost no play whatsoever. And check it out, considering that there is no relief inside of the handles whatsoever for the blade. You hear that? Yeah, me neither. No tap whatsoever. Honestly, pretty incredible for the fact that there's so little wiggle room for the blade at all inside of the handles. It could be tapping, but it's not. It's just that well tuned. Oh, and before I forget, here's a sound test. Honestly, beautiful. And of course, we can't forget about this gorgeous blade. It's an interesting shaped tanto with a flat bevel, and I don't know how well it'll show on camera, but it is perfectly even on both sides. That is really, really good craftsmanship. Now, the only unfortunate thing about this blade is that this is an older one from JW, so all the grind lines have been kind of satined off, as you can see here. I really like to see the actual grind lines on a handmade blade, so it's a little bit unfortunate that they're gone, but you know, it doesn't take away from the fact that there's some really good craftsmanship going on this blade. Even without the lines, you can still see it. It's beautiful. And you know what else is really great about this balisong? I mean, obviously it's not pinsless because it's sandwich. It's not channel or chanwich, so it's not going to have that pinsless system, but rather, it's hidden zens. You don't have to see the pin on the outside, and you don't have to worry about its long-term durability. Although the way that this nipple is made, the geometry and shape of it, just the size as well, you can definitely feel that while flipping. So that's something that I definitely have taken notice to while using this thing for the past few weeks. Now, after all of that high praise, does that mean that this thing has become one of my favorite flippers? Unfortunately not. It has not become one of my favorite flippers. Now, I'm going to reiterate, this is an older one, so I can't speak for the newer ones. But for the older ones, they're a little bit on the heavier side. It's a little bit out of my preferred range. I'm more of a medium weight kind of a preference person, so it gets my hands a little bit tired, and that's okay. Some people like it a little bit heavier. It's just not for me. And of course, I mentioned earlier that it's a little bit sharp around the edges, and I can definitely feel that while flipping. And maybe you could too, or maybe not. My hands are soft, so I feel a lot more than some people who have heavier calluses. So for me, it's a little bit uncomfortable and rubs my hands a little bit raw over time while flipping. It also has a little bit of a strange balance. I think it might have to do with the blade shape. There's so much weight right here with this strange spine shape where it's kind of angled out more close to the pivots than out, like a lot of other tanto type balisongs, and maybe that's part of it. I still can't tell. I need to have a little bit more time with it. I've only had it for like 2 weeks now, maybe, at best. And again, there's also the Zen nipple that I feel a lot when I flip. I can definitely feel that. But none of that takes away from the fact that this thing is handmade, and that gives it something special. Even if it's not my personal favorite flipper, it's still special for at least that. And of course, handmade doesn't mean that something is inherently good or valuable, but well, for some reference, I work as a professional artist, and for a few years, I was a jewelry smith. So I made jewelry for people, and people paid for that, and craftsmanship is a huge thing about that. Well, when I look at this, the appeal and draw for me with the magnet, at least this older one, is the craftsmanship behind it. When I look at this, it's not just about it being a knife. It's more than just that. It's a handmade piece of art. That's where the draw and the value comes, for me at least. Although that's not to say that it's not a good flipper either. It still has some pretty good flipping capabilities. It's just, it's not for my taste is all. But it's still good, and it's a gorgeous piece of art. That's two great things about it. And again, I would like to reiterate that this is an older one. This was made in 2022, so given that it has an even bevel grind on both sides of the blade, and all the chamfers are relatively same to each other, imagine how much better the current ones are that are made now 2 years later. Can you imagine the craftsmanship behind that? And also, the handles are milled out, so they're a little bit lighter. That's great. I love what he's doing. I would love to try one. Now, I can't afford one, but I would love to try one. I actually only have this because I found it for a really, really good deal that I couldn't pass up for this, so, you know, sometimes it just worked out like that. And now I'm out a lot of money still. It wasn't cheap, it was just a good deal. I make bad choices with my life. Anyways, all that to say that even if it wasn't the best flipper, this thing is a gorgeous piece of art. I mean, look at it. This thing is pretty. I think it's pretty at least. But that's not to say that it's not a good flipper, because even if it's not directly for my taste, I still think that it's a good flipper and well worth its value just for that. Oh, fuck! You just can't go one video without falling over, can you? You just can't, huh? Well, you know, you're on thin ice. Maybe I need to move you or something. I need to do something about this. This isn't good for it. So in conclusion, whether it's cut by machines and computers or meticulously carved by hand, it's the craftsmanship for me. It's the attention to those fine little details that really sells it for me in the end. Though if we're being honest, the highest regards still go to the handmade piece, because of course that's why I'm making this whole video about the JW magnet, and it being handmade is why it's so special, you know, that's just a given. So anyways, that is it for now. I hope you enjoyed my babbling about my appreciation for art like this. Subscribe if you want more of whatever this is. Support our small makers, and